Today on Habits and Money, I have an extremely talented person in studio. This person has an extremely rich background in financial intelligence and the financial service industry, but then so much more. So today we're going to talk about financial intelligence, because I do believe that people across the world, you owe it to yourself to make a solid commitment to really understand not just money, but also how money works. The subject matter in studio will talk you through a number of issues relating to money, how money works. So moving forward, you are in a much better position of strength to understand money business. So without delay, I now want to welcome my guest on stage, and it's no other than Barbara
Hi.
Anderson Strong. How are you?
Hey, Gary. I'm absolutely amazing. Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
I must say it's a tremendous pleasure to have you in studio. You have an extremely rich history.
Yes.
I see that you started off in banking back in your country. You went on to study ACCA, but then you went on to develop lots of experience with Primerica, who is a giant in the United States when it comes to different types of insurance. But that's not all. You are now the brain and the leader behind Jenny Star. You're a wife, you're a mother, and so much more. You have been in business for over 20 years, and today you are playing a tremendous lead role. The Jenny Star, you focus a lot on financial education, and today I want us to do that deep dive into financial education. But
Can I just
I
say
want
sorry,
to talk.
Mr. Gary,
Go
before
ahead.
quickly? So just a little bit of clarification. So in terms of the Primerica concept, Primerica came into the UK some years ago with a company called City Solutions. As you know, they were part of Citigroup at the time. And so when they came into the UK with the concept, they did not come to the UK as Primerica. They came to the UK as City Solutions, which was then a part of Citigroup. So yes, the same concept, but it's just that at the time, nobody in the UK kind of knew who Primerica
Knew
was.
what?
So
Yeah.
typically the UK version was City Solutions. And again, in terms of the business, as I said, myself and about 18 of us started a company. So there's myself and my
We
co-CEOs. And
we're gonna get into it.
yeah,
We're gonna get
I just
into
wanted to clear the air on that bit. So
that.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right,
I,
thanks.
I did some stuff with Primerica a few years ago. They're a giant in America, and yes,
Yes,
they have gone over to the UK, and there's
mhm,
where you connected with the
yes,
Primerica.
yes.
And we're going to get into it, all right?
Okay, fine.
But I want to help the public to understand so much more about you. Since you have
Okay.
started Jenny Star, you have built out a network with over 7,000 persons. Am I
Yes.
correct?
Yes, and
And
I
I
mean,
want to say,
yes, with myself and along with some other colleagues as well, just like yourself. There's a group of us at the head, and so yes, we have quite a number of people. Yeah, that
good. Part of your vision is to help families to create that financial legacy, and you also have in mind that dream of taking your operation IPO, initial public offer.
and
We're
that
going to
was
talk.
about that as well.
we-
Yeah. Okay. All right.
We're
Cool.
going to get into all of that, but let's start because there's so much. And your colleague in studio just gave me a hint that you're also a motivational speaker, John.
I love to talk. You can see, I love to talk.
It's good. You're extremely talented. Great to have a talent like yourself as you. But let us begin with where you got started. You got started in banking back in Jamaica.
Yes.
Tell us about your experience in the banking sector. What inspired you to get into it then, and what was it like for you?
Okay, it's amazing that I always go with the truth. I'm not one of the people who said I really wanted to change people's lives. That's why I went into banking. It was never that. Being in the Caribbean, I always saw being in banking as something a little bit more prestigious than just me being a school teacher. I was teaching originally, and then I thought banking looked a little bit nicer, so I actually went into banking by a fluke. Really, I just thought, oh, I applied and I was invited in for an interview, and I got the job. So for me, it wasn't anything necessarily to say specifically I wanted to get into banking because of anything to change the world or anything like that. It just seemed like something really nice to get into at the time. At that young age, I think, yeah, I'm 21, it's kind of nice being in the bank. So that's what I wanted to do. So that's how I got in. That's how I got in. So there's no real storm or miracle that happened why I went in. It was just something that seemed really nice to get into at the time.
Okay, great.
Yes.
I know you also went on to study ACCA. What was that experience like for you?
I think in school, one other thing about it is, we always have teachers, and that is why, you'll hear me talk a lot about financial services and financial education, because I do realize that as educators, we play a great, role in helping and molding people, to kind of whatever their future turn out to be sometimes. And I had an amazing teacher in high school who taught accounting. And even though I was rubbish at maths, I just couldn't get maths in my head. I just grasped accounting, and she was just amazing. Or Mrs. Nelson was just wonderful. And I just grasped it, and I, got, top grades in all areas when I did my CXC, and looking at the scores, I topped out in all the areas. And so I felt that it was something that I had some knack for, and I was able to understand quite clearly. So I decided I would pursue the route. So I came to the UK and I decided to do AAT originally, and then passed all of those subjects, and then went on to doing my ACCA. Gosh, 20 odd years ago. So it's such a long time ago. Forgotten what it's like, but yes.
Time really flies. Time really
Yes, it
flies.
does. It certainly does. It certainly does.
Let's talk a bit about Primerica.
Yes.
I could recall it's about 7, 8 years ago. I started to interface with some colleagues from Primerica. I can say that they're very aggressive. They're extremely talented. And what I love working with them, it's all about the figures. It's all about how you can make smart investment now and optimize your future, opportunities to build wealth for the future. I know that Primerica came across to the UK where you are right now, and that's where you have your business, that's where you have your family,
Yes.
that's where you're touching and transforming lives today. Tell us, what was the experience like for you? How did you connect it with Primerica when they came over to the UK? And what was that experience like?
Actually, I was working full time as an accountant in the city of London. I was also working part time 2 evenings a week. I was going to college 2 evenings a week, single mother with a 3-year-old. So at the time, I felt I was doing pretty okay. And it's amazing how that little dirty word called debt is now nicely packaged called credit. And for me, it was like, yeah, I have got credit cards. I've got everything on credit because I've got great credit. And, and so I had all the nice trimmings and it looked like life was really, really nice. And my friend rang me up. I used to teach her daughter in school in Jamaica. And she rang me up and she said to me, hey, I'd like you to come to a meeting with me on Saturday morning. It was a Friday afternoon, and I'm not a morning person. And I was told I had to be back in central London for 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning. And I'm thinking, don't want to go, and kind of fobbed her off a bit, but I went along. And I think, it was one of the best decisions I made. I went to the meeting and was one of the Primerica vice presidents at the time. And he did the presentation, and I saw something that morning called the Rule of 72, which I'd never heard of before. And I was just blown away. And I thought, wow, so there's really hope for me. I don't have to work until I fall over. I could create wealth. I could leave a legacy for my family. I could do all of these things. So I took the opportunity to get involved. I gave up my part-time job a month after I started. Hadn't made any money. 2 months later, I decided I would go full-time. Still hadn't made any money, but I decided I would go full-time. And then I worked through a 5-month program with him. He showed me that I could become what was the Primerica RVP role at the time. I mean, we're now different in the UK, but, it was a Primerica RVP role. He said, look, you can get a regional vice president in 5 months. If you work really hard, I can show you what to do. And I said, cool. And I jumped in. And yes, I got promoted in Atlanta in 2005 of June. Again, as you're saying about this aggressive progress towards, excelling. I think that this is the only time you're allowed to be aggressive is when it comes to doing something awesome and amazing for your life and for your family. You got to get aggressive on that one. So yeah, so my experience, actually, that was the first time I actually saw something, or I never had no inkling that there was going to be a way that I could change something. I was just thinking I was going to work and retire someday. And, they showed me a different way of life.
I must say, in my interaction with Primerica leaders, I was so impressed because they seem to be having this passion to just really want to help people to come into financial independence. And I must say, now I'm interfacing with you, I can see you represent some of these guys on steroid because you got so much energy, so much motivation, you know what you're about. about,
Yeah. Yes.
I really love the energy that you bring to what you do.
Absolutely.
How many years now you have started your business?
So it's about 20 years now. I've been working for myself. And yeah, it's been, 20 years of, people expect a time when you say you're in business for yourself, you're going to tell them, oh man, it was just, it was just great. I made a decision. It was just great. But it's been 20 years of learning. And if you're in business and you're not still learning, then there's a problem. So it's been 20 years of, doing something different to the age old job. And it's been a learning for me. And I am still learning 20 years on.
So
Yeah.
are you still flying the Pride America flagship, or have you separated yourself? You're now on your own. Tell
Yes.
us about that transition and what caused that
Yes,
transition.
absolutely. So in 2007, we were just getting ready to go into the first kind of major credit crunch that I had, been a part of to that extent. And at the time, Citigroup then made a decision to kind of close and streamline some of their businesses in the UK. So a number of businesses were closed at the time. We had things like there was Future Mortgages, there was City Financial, and we were City Solutions. And there were some other areas that they made a decision that they were going to close those areas of their business as they refocused their energies in other areas. So the company closed out in 2007. And, I had a phone call to say I needed to come to the office. And I went to the office and I was just given the news that we were closing. And it was like tears. Everybody was sitting in the office crying because we had all thrown in our towels and we knew that this is where we wanted to be. And so a month or so later, I had a call from one of my current colleagues, and he said to me, "Hey, Barbara, we're looking to start a company because we know what the UK need, and we can create a business that can understand the UK marketplace. And would you like to have a chat?" And I met up with him in London Bridge, and I sat down, and as he started talking, I said, "Where do I sign?" And he said to me, "Hold on, Barbara, we haven't got a company yet. We don't even know if we're going to have a name. We don't even know if we're going to get authorized or approved." And I said, "I'm in. Whatever it is, I am in." And I decided that day I was back in. So we started a company called Genistar, and Genistar came out of two words, which is Genesis for new beginnings and Star for creating leaders. My CEO at the time, I mean, for most of us, we didn't have the money that was required by the regulators to kind of get the business off the ground. And he was one of the co-CEOs at the time, and he just said, "Okay, fine, we'll all do this together." And so yeah, we started Jenny Star, and his team, part of his team name back then was Superstars. So that was about creating new stars. So the Jenny Star came out of those two words. And yeah, there are five of us from that original team left, and my CEO still here. Our other our other co-CEO, who's also was our managing director and head of finance, still here from day one as well. So there's still a whole group of us who are still here from the original batch that started out back in 2007. So yeah.
Well, so out of every disappointment, there's always an
Yes,
opportunity.
tell me about it. Hey, tell me about it.
Because I'm certain that if you didn't have that bad news that, hey, Citigroup is closing, and you felt sad, but then an opportunity presents itself, and I know that you embrace this opportunity much more than the experience you might have had working with that company. Now, talk to me a little bit about the project activities that Jenny Star is involved with. I sat with you a little while ago, I think it was last week, and you eloquently, educate your audience about your platform. I want to give you a chance to really educate my audience about some of what Jenny Star is doing in terms of the financial education, the financial programs, the wealth creation platforms that you have.
And again, as I said, I really want to thank you. I think one of the thing about it is, I understand that financial services and financial education is the same no matter where you are. We might, use different languages, we might use different words, we might call all things differently. But education overall on finances is pretty much the same. We need to teach people how to understand money. Need to teach people how to manage their debt situation. We need to teach people how to save more. We need to teach people how to invest more, having an emergency fund, and all of these things, understanding the rule of 72. These are all things that we really need to get people to understand, and then also be in a position to have the next generation starting out better than we are at right now. So again, is looking at, so if I start out here, my daughter should actually build something she can build on, and then so on and so forth. So it should be building blocks through generations, but most time that doesn't happen. So one other thing about Jenny Star, what Jenny Star really is about is empowering people to make smarter financial decisions. I mean, we live in a country right now where things are a bit different, might be to most places in the world. We have kind of a benefit system that a lot of people were used to, where, if you're not working, you can have, some benefits, you can have some help with your rent, you can have some rent, help with your living, daily living, and all of that. So they're different things. So it meant that the UK market was different to might be what some other people might have seen previously. We have a slightly different economy. We have an NHS healthcare system where, if you're sick, you could go to the hospital. They're not going to tell you, well, you don't have no money, you can't get seen, you can't go to the doctor, so you don't have no money. So our system is very much different to a lot of places in the world. I mean, we are at the point now where the system is so stressed and, broken at some point that, we're beginning to have to start taking responsibility for our own future and our own well-being. So Johnny Star is really about changing financial lives, one financial plan at a time. So that's kind of really what we're doing. Let's make a difference. Let's empower people, and let's start doing one plan at a time. Let's start doing that. And so we decided that as part of what we were going to do is we would give people a financial plan, give them the education first and foremost, because if people are educated, they can make smarter decisions. They say an educated consumer make the best consumer. So what happened is we find that as we educate those people, they're making smarter decisions around finances. And so we started out with the financial game plan. In fact, when we started out, Gary, we did not even have we didn't have any software, we didn't have a website, we didn't have anything. In fact, I started out seeing clients with 2 sheets of paper, and kind of, let me take you details, let's talk to you about the rule of 72, let's show you how it works. And so over the years, what has happened is we've now grown into having websites, having kind of interactive financial game plans that our clients can have a plan. And so we don't really charge our clients for financial game plans. Our financial game plans are complementary to our clients. But what we look to do is, there's no point of me educating somebody and then they say to me, no, may I have the plan? And they're not going to, put anything into place, then that plan would have been useless. So as I sit with somebody, I look at what their needs are, I look at their goals, I look at what they want to achieve, and then we create plans around that. And it's unique for every client. And then we're able to say, okay, now let's look at the services. Okay, so you need to get out of debt. You need to start putting your emergency fund in place. Have you got 3 to 6 months, which is ideally what you need? Okay, have you got anything else in place if something were to happen? What if you fall ill? What's your plan B? Are you renting at the moment? Do you want to own your own property? What's your retirement plan going to look like? So we're able to start helping them to put all of those services in place at the same time, as well as giving them the education. And we've just helped so many people over the time since we have been working. And I smile sometimes because I think the days when we all had 2 sheets of paper, what we had was I think it's a lot harder to track those few years of the paper-based things. But now electronically, where we've got we've gone over 100, possibly 150,000 clients that we've helped. And in fact, those are the ones who have done financial game plans with us. There's some clients who don't have financial game plans because the service they were using then didn't require us to do a financial game plan with them. So again, it's really about empowerment is very, very important for us. We've got to empower people to make better decisions when it comes to money. And I realize that the direct approach sometimes doesn't work with people. Is about being able to say to somebody, actually, I saw a problem, and you share the stories of the problems you've seen, and people start connecting with those problems. Most time, if I approach somebody and say, hey, listen, I really want to help you, they go like, I'm fine. But when they heard it's happened to somebody else, they suddenly go, actually, I better start thinking about my situation and that. So Jenny Star is very much about that, about getting people to focus in on where the challenges are and then help them to grow from those places in their financial lives. I think
Jenny, Yeah, Jenny, I must say I admire what you do. I truly love what you do, and because what I've seen is that you can have a diploma, you can have a degree, you can have a master's degree, you can have a doctorate, and still not be educated on financial instrument.
Mhm.
And I really love that your platform is really going into that body of knowledge so as to ensure that your audience can walk away educated, but
Mhm.
also walk away with a plan that can be easily implemented within the platforms and that you have. I want to give you all the encouragement to keep doing what you're doing because in the world today, I do believe it is so important to have this body of knowledge.
Mhm.
Having a solid education is important, but sometimes you see that having a solid education is not enough. It's
Yes.
never enough.
Yes.
Having that financial intelligence, it's what makes the big difference.
Absolutely.
Jenny, you also spoke about living trust. I would love for you to just give us a brief walkthrough in terms of what a living trust represents. I think this is a unique financial instrument that serves you in the present, it serves you in the future. I would love for you to just walk us through what is the significance of having a living trust.
So one other thing about it is, which is where I know, for example, the US is different to the UK. The UK is a bit different when it comes to things like having a trust, because putting an asset in trust whilst you're alive means that you do not have access. You should not benefit from your own trust. So if you put something in a trust, you're not meant to benefit from it. So the UK rules around trust is slightly different, or might be a whole lot different to might be other places in the world, in that a trust actually works more so when you are not alive versus when you're alive.
Yeah.
Now, doesn't mean you can't protect things whilst you're alive, because you have to put the instructions in place whilst you are alive. And so what a trust does here for us in the UK is, a trust helps to put all your assets in one place. So once you write a will, and your will say, okay, here are my instructions. When I'm no longer here, this is what I want to happen. However, we have children, we have grandchildren, great great grandchildren, and whoever else we want to leave something for. Now, it means that just having it in a will means that we're handing assets to people who might not necessarily have an understanding of how those assets were accumulated, and could waste those assets as well. It could very well be they go to court. I mean, it could be a divorce settlement, and half of that asset is now gone, or that estate is gone. So the thing about that is that putting those assets in a trust helps to protect things that could happen in the future. Could be a court case. It could be, a bad business decision. It could help and protect against those things. So in the UK, in terms of a trust, the rules are, if you pass away and your assets are below 325,000, then you don't pay inheritance tax on those assets. So again, it is still important though that you could still have less than 325,000, and you have somebody who outlive you and squander those assets, and then their children don't get it, or your grandchildren will not have it. So it's important to still put that in place to protect it. So the trust kind of becomes its own entity. The trust owns the assets, and then the people who are left behind them become beneficiaries of those assets and those estates. So they can use those assets in the estate, but they don't technically own it. So therefore, if let's say, Gary, you had your assets in a trust, or had your assets from a trust, and you're the beneficiary of that trust, your parents left for you. And if I were to get in a fight with you, or you were to do anything bad to me, and I wanted to sue you, you would actually say, I've got nothing. I got a pound in my account. Yeah, but I know your
But
mom left you.
owned by the truck.
Exactly. It's not me.
You
I
don't
know.
own it.
So
You
that's
don't own, so got it.
yeah. I think the thing about those as well. So I know, when you talk to like estate planners and people who do trust, they'll say, okay, fine, Gary, you write your will. That's not a problem. Write your will, and then we'll put a discretionary trust in the will, so that kicks in when you pass away, and then that will then not start protecting those assets. So I couldn't, for example, put my house in a trust and still live here, because it doesn't work like that. Life insurance policies are another good examples of putting things in trust. A lot of people also don't recognize that, having their life insurance policy, if they don't put it in a trust, it forms a part of that £325,000 estate. So again, somebody has a policy for $250,000, they leave a house, that they say, well, my house is only 150,000, but yeah, by the time you've added those things together, you're over the threshold. So it's putting life insurance policies can have their own trust, which is set up
Mhm.
free of charge by the insurance company. So we've got that. And then, as I said, then you have all your other assets that you can put into a trust to protect those assets, help to mitigate against inheritance tax as well. Now, the good thing about having life insurance policies in a trust is that it allows the insurance company to make payment out to the beneficiaries a lot quicker If not, they'll have to wait for a will to be probated and all of those things. So in this case, it means you're very specific and clear with your instructions to the insurance company and to your trustees to say, this is what I want happen. These are who the beneficiaries are. So yeah, trust is I think might be one of the most important things that you can do for your family and your estate when you are not around, to be able to follow through on what you'd have wanted to do when you were alive. Yeah, very, very important that we do that.
What I must say is that having a living trust is so important because, like, when we look at the men who built America,
Mhm.
the richest people in the world, sadly, so those who did not leave that well. Guess
Mhm.
what happened? A generation later, the family had $0 to show of all the wealth that their foreparents would have created. And
Absolutely.
what the living will does, it allows continuity of that wealth.
Yeah.
When we look at the Rothschild is a typical example of what you're
Mhm.
talking.
Yes.
Because 100 years later, his wealth has not depreciated; it has significantly increased because of the systems that he have left
Yes.
in place for the
Yes.
continuation of wealth.
Yeah. I think the challenge as well, sorry, Gary, to cut you there, where the UK is a bit different, is that there is the trusts that are done in the UK are only valid for 125 years. This is where again education comes in, where we have to make sure that our children get educated, and so they educate the next generation, that they keep putting it back in a trust and keep renewing the trust. Because once your 125 years are up, you can't then you're only hoping that somebody will continue what you wanted, which I think might be one of the drawbacks between might be what we have here in the UK too, might be what's in other places. It's only valid for 125 years, unfortunately.
Okay, great information. Now,
Yes.
Jenny, I want us to go a little deeper into financial intelligence,
Mhm.
but I must also highlight how extremely talented you are. You are also an author, all right?
Yes.
You have written that book, Managing on Nil every year. We're going to talk about that but just before we come to the fact that you've also written a book,
Uh-huh.
I want to talk a little bit about your short term goal. I know that you want to impact the middle class,
Yes.
and you started that process. You have
Mhm.
built out a community with perhaps over 7,000 persons. Tell us about your main reason to wanting to impact the middle class.
I think one other thing about it is, again, and I know I talk a lot about might be from the UK perspective, and it might be very similar in other places in the world. In that, okay, so you have in the UK, we have like at the bottom, we have, let's say, might be 5% of the population who, if they need something, can actually go to the government. If they're struggling, they can go to the government. They can get help from the government. You then have the other side. You have the other 5% where they're the wealthy ones, so they don't need us. Now, in between there, you have the bulk of people who carry the system, the ones who go to work, the nurses, the teachers, the doctors, the police officers. These people are the grafters. And so unfortunately, they work so hard, but those people's children are the ones who never have anything to show for all the hard work their parents have done, which is why that is very, very important, that if we're the grafters and if we're doing all of this work, why is it our children don't have anything to show for it? And that is why it's important to me that I make sure that those people are doing the right thing. I have got clients who make 20 grand a month, 25,000 a month. I sat with a doctor who makes 15,000 pounds a month, and he is so stretched he doesn't even have a penny in savings. Now there's a problem. So
That's
he's
a
doing
major
all of this
problem.
work. Exactly. He's doing all of this work, and from all of this work, we have nothing to show for that income. So one of the thing about it is for us to start stepping in and start educating those people and actually saying to them, look, there is a problem. We've got to do something about this. Or your children, you're going to pay for them to go to university. In fact, most people are borrowing to go to university. So you finish university, you come out, and you start the cycle all over again. It's a vicious cycle over and over again. So it means that nobody is getting wealthy. It's just a job. Everybody goes to work. You go to work, and then your children come and do the same thing, and their children come and do the same thing. Imagine a young person finish university, meets a girl at university, they get married, and they come out, they have their university debt. They then find a place and start living together and have children, and they never pay the debt off. And now the children say, I want to go to university, and the cycle starts all over again. So nobody is ever getting financially okay. I'm saying to parents, at the end of the day, you start creating something for your children in terms of when they're ready for university. If they can get the loan, absolutely let them take the loan. You can then go use that money to pay the deposit for a property for them, and then let that property out. They let the property out, they have an asset already. They come from university, they can choose to pay off the debt or whatever, but they have an asset. I say to people, it's not about your saving enough money money necessarily for them to go to university with that money, because ultimately all that they're getting something up here if they even retain any of it. But if they got an asset, they still got something that is going to continue for the next generation, for the next generation. So middle class, I find, is that we are the ones who we're going to school to get a good education so we can get a good job, but then we still end up being broke. So there's a big problem, and my job is to do as much as I can to educate people. So we got to do something about this, or else next generation is going to be worse off than we are right now. Really bad situation.
I'm happy that you point that out because in reality, we have a global epidemic where that's concerned. You know, the middle class, they are trained the way we all were trained: go to school, get a good education, get a good job, and paradise is promised to you. But then sometimes you find that you're waiting 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. You're going to your maker, you're still waiting for paradise on earth. So
Yes.
there definitely is smarter way to make this happen. And I laugh because you hit the nail on the head. You know, instead of taking that debt and you put it into to academic, that sometimes doesn't make sense. That sometimes turned out to be one of the biggest liability you have, because it's going to be shattering you for the next 15, 30 years. Why not put it into an income producing asset that gives you daily, weekly, monthly cash flow, that gives you asset appreciation, that gives you equity leverage, and can, by extension, pay for that education if you really want to go there. Not that you don't want to go, when it makes sense, you're going to go for it.
Yes.
But then guess what? You have an asset that is going to pay you for the rest of your life. And this is why I keep saying I really love what you're doing in terms of providing this kind of information to people to really help them to make, this is what I'm going to call this, a transformational life decision. Because having this knowledge can make a major difference between going closer and closer to a life of poverty,
Yes,
moving faster and faster to a life of wealth. And there's some simple shift you need to make. And the key lies in really understanding financial intelligence. So the role that you're playing there is very tremendous.
yes.
Before I go in, go
As well,
ahead. Go ahead.
Gary.
Yeah.
Well, one other thing about it as well, is that you find if most people say they're going on holiday in December, they will pay their deposit for their flight. They're going to a hotel, they pay for that. They'll put all the plans in place up to that holiday. Comes to planning your financial life, nobody does that. Well, most people don't. They just go to work and they know at the end of the month I'm going to get some money and I'm going to pay my wages. But it's going to pay my wages, it's going to pay my bills. Sorry, but they plan for their holidays, but they don't plan their financial future. They don't plan for what happens when they can't work anymore. They say you're going to retire and 70% less than what wasn't enough in the first place. So what happens then? Does that mean that you start just drinking warm water? You don't have a cup of tea anymore? What happened? To all of those things. Friend of mine say you have to decide whether or not you eat or you heat. Yeah. So
Exactly.
switch off the heating or eat. Which one do you want to do when you get to that point? And so that's what we're saying. So just the same, you're planning for that holiday that is only going to last you a couple of weeks, and then you're back in the same old. Why don't you start your financial future? Just the same.
Yeah, Barbara, I want to ask you a question on this because you're right. You're perfectly correct. The majority of the people spend over 49 years in the workforce. And still, after spending 49 years, you've reached the age of retirement, you still can't retire because your retirement benefit is not enough to cover your overhead. The big question, the big question, do you think people are really schooled to understand the importance of this? Sometimes it hurts when you recognize that you give your all to society, and in your golden age, you cannot live the quality of life that you've so deserving of. And I'm saying, I see this happen to academics. I see this happen to extremely talented people. Do you think that they have enough information? If not, why not?
It's going to be a little bit controversial. But one of the things I find is that if you give people too much education and they start making decisions for themselves, then what you find is they start, retaliating, and they start revolting and rebelling against you. So why educate them? Why educate them? Why would you go into school and teach children that, guess what? A job is only going to not pay your bills if you're lucky. But you know what? You can start a business. Why teach them that? And then it means you don't have no employees. Why would you want to do that?
So I think that the majority of people are the one percenters. They're acting out of fear when they're not disseminating this body of knowledge. But the challenge about it, Barbara, is that no one has really tested if we're to create that reality where we have more wealthy and less poor, what that dynamic will be like.
Mhm.
We never really push the brain's thinking, the brain power over that edge to really visualize what can happen. It doesn't mean that it's all worst case. There
Yeah.
are a number of best cases that can come out of that.
Crime would go down. I mean, if you had where kids didn't need to, their parents could give them things. And honestly, I know parent is gonna go like, oh no, that's not fair. I give my child everything. But what we're saying is when you have a child who he knows if he needs a new pair of shoe, his parent can afford to give it to him. He doesn't have to go join up with a gang who's gonna ask him to go do something so he can get some shoes or he can get something in his tummy. I mean, and I know there's always exceptions to everything, but what I'm saying is if we had more wealthy families and more people who are in better financial position, then our children wouldn't necessarily have to go to the extremes that they have to go to get certain things. Because if there was enough money, then they wouldn't have to do some of the things that they do. So again, as you're saying, yes, there's a challenge in that, why don't we test the theory of whether or not if we educate more people? But as I said, as the 1%, if I were the 1% and I'm saying, yeah, I mean, I got all of this money, why, I've got a whole mass of people here working, and why would I want them? I mean, I read a book called The Dream Giver. It was a book written by Bruce Wilkinson. And in the book, the village landlord is saying to him, where do you think you're going? And that's the thing. When the village landlord believes that you shouldn't leave the village because if you leave the village, you're cutting into his wealth. Why should the village landlord, then teach you to go have your own little business around the corner when you're going to cut into his income? And that's the problem. That's the
That's a
problem.
major problem. I mean, it's a major problem, but we'll definitely dive into that as time progresses, because
Absolutely, absolutely,
the
absolutely.
Science of Success University, we're looking at all of this because we
Hmm.
believe that we have to create a platform where we can allow honesty
Hmm.
and openness to strive to help people to make better, smarter business and life decisions. So we'll talk about that as time progresses.
Absolutely,
Now,
absolutely.
Barbara, I want us to really talk about your book, and I really can't wait to get an insight into managing on nil every year. Talk to
Yeah.
me like that. That book, without even hearing it, sounds a little bit about what someone that I listened to recently would have said. But let me hear your take. Let me hear about this book, managing on nil
Well,
every
every
year.
year. It's so funny, I always try to think that I could be a little bit cute and try to come up with stuff. So I thought, I wanted to find an acronym around money, and then I realized that actually nobody has any. Well, most people don't have any. So we just managing on nil. We just get by with nothing each year, and the tax year comes to the end, and we go like, man, I hope this year is a little bit better than it was last year. So what I started doing is I came up with the idea. Well, a friend of mine, I mean, I'm going to give him credit because he said to me, Barbara, you got so much knowledge and people are always calling you and trying to talk to you and spend time with you. Why don't you put some of this in a book? And I said, okay. And he dragged me and he dragged me. And so I did a version and then I got it upgraded. And then at the moment, I'm actually working on it because I wanted to make it more universal, and not just specific. So it's so funny. I got a copy of it that I've got handwriting and crossings and no, let's not put that. Let's do this. Let's say it this way. Let's do it this way. But one of the thing about it is they are concepts around finances and they're potholes. They're all of these things that happen in our financial lives. And if we look at from when we start out finishing school to getting a job and to, as I said, 10, 10, 10, 70, 10% of what you earn, you must give. The next 10% is your emergency fund. The next 10% is for your future, and you live on 70%. If you're not living on 70%, you have a problem. You need to increase your income. So I started looking at things like that, and we started talking more about how can we get people to understand that, especially when they're living on 110%. What are some of the things that if they understood it, they would understand that, what, I don't know, I'm going to have to, look in my fridge. I've got frostbitten food in my fridge, because most people say they have nothing. If you go to their fridge, there's something in there. Nothing means I wasn't able to go to the supermarket this week and pick up something, for some people. So I started looking at things about, about, concepts and things about around money and little things that people didn't understand, and started putting it together and came up with a book where I talk about, as I said, everything from in between protection, the different types of protections you can have, the different reasons you would have each of these things. What's the difference between investing and saving? And I keep saying, well, poor people try to save whilst rich people invest. So it's trying to get them to understand that, okay, if you stop watching Netflix, and if you stop paying a Netflix subscription, it's not going to make you wealthy. Watching Netflix and not using the time wisely is a different matter. But the money that we pay, was it 16 or 17 pounds on Netflix? I don't even know. That's not going to make you stop paying for it. It's not going to make you wealthy, except if when you stop paying for it, you stop watching TV and start focusing on building your wealth. So there's certain things that people try to do, little things that they think will make a massive difference that doesn't make a difference. But the other things you talk about, like for example, debt stacking, a little tweak make a massive difference. It's trying to get people to understand where you should be focusing your energies when it comes to finances, understanding things like, as I mentioned, I got the difference between having a will or having a trust or having both. Power of attorneys would happen if you're still alive. And because we talk a lot about sometimes about what happens when you're not here, but what about when you're here and for God forbid somebody has a stroke and they can't pay their bills, but there's money in their bank account? Who does that? Who's in charge of that? So these are things that started getting people to start understanding about the things that they should be doing with their finances, and also starting to educate their children around these things as well. And so it's not about saying you're not going to give anything to your children when you die, because the Bible does say a man must leave an inheritance for his children's children. So therefore, I believe it's our responsibility and our duty to create the path for the next generation. So it's not saying I'm not going to give you anything when I die. That's just really, a different level for me. But at the end of the day, it's about getting people to start understanding different concepts around monies and little things that they can do, ways they can retain money in their finances as well, and how they can do all of these things. It's so funny, they joke and laugh all the time. The barber's got an app for everything. I go in anywhere and they go like, I think, are you a member? Do you have a membership? Yes. Okay, what do I get? 10%? Yeah, absolutely. Let me quickly download the app, serve the next person. I'll get my app. To every 10% works, because if I walked into the supermarket and I was short a pound, they're not giving me their stuff. So every 10% helps. So I've got more apps that will give me discounts. So I do all of those things in terms of the book. And
Great,
yes.
great. All right, I want to shift the conversation now to take away some of your secret sauce to success. But I'm gonna come. I'm gonna come to that just now.
Okay.
I just want to say a little bit about the book when I hear the name Managing on Nail Every Year. It reminds me of this guy, Grant Cardone. He is a multi-billionaire today.
Yes.
And he made a statement quite recently, which is don't save. Why save? And don't have an emergency savings account. And what he said subsequent to that is that many persons would eat his head off because of the statement. Because I think that statement has a double-edged sword.
Yes.
And I'm going to say why. And I don't think he had explained it fully enough. If you are an extremely wealthy person that have multiple income streams, you don't have to save because you have money working for you. You have systems set up where you're getting daily income, weekly income, and monthly income. So a person who is in that position, which he's in, he don't necessarily have to save. And there's a logic behind not saving, because savings in a bank account is a depreciating asset.
Absolutely.
And if you don't know it, it is a depreciating asset. So that's his logic for saying what he's saying. So I totally understand that. But on the flip side of that, the average person is not in that position of strength where they have investment that is bringing in daily income, weekly income, and monthly income. So they need to have that emergency savings, because if something goes wrong and you have a single unit, you have to think about, hey, I need to have a reserve that can cover my monthly debt obligation, put some food on the table, because you are still dependent on a single source of income. So what I've seen, you can be right in the statement that you're making, but if you're not completing that trend of thoughts, you can leave so much open for people to disagree with you. And I think that's one thing that I saw happen. Your book title reminds me of that.
Yes.
Now, Barbara, I want to come to your secret sauce. What are essential habits that influence success? From your experience, you have a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience, and so much of success behind you. What
Yes.
are those habits that influence success?
Yeah, I think it is this constant striving to be better than I was yesterday, to constantly be open to learning. One of the thing about it is when I show up at a training session, even if it's my newest person that's going to be running a training session, I've always got my notepad ready to make notes because somebody is going to say something that I'm going to learn from. A lot of people believe that when they reach a certain level, they don't need to listen to anybody anymore. They don't need to hear what anybody else is saying because they actually know already. And the thing about it is that at the end of the day, you've got to constantly be saying, if I get better than I was yesterday, then it means I'm getting closer to what I need to do. You also never ever, again, I'm going to go back to the book The Dream Giver. One of the things I learned about the dream giver is the dream giver will show you a dream and he'll allow you to achieve it. If you do the right work and do the right things with your time, he'll allow you to achieve it. However, that's not the end. The dream giver is constantly giving more dreams and visions. So it's not just about, I'm a senior vice president in our company. I make 100,000 a year, and people go like, "Oh my God," and I go like, "No, don't be off me. That's nothing. I'm gonna be the first millionaire in my family. I want to start making $1 million a year. That's what I want." Then you can go like, "Oh," and then you can come talk to me. But one of the thing about it is the fact that as you change in life, each morning you wake up, you realize it's a new day. I am not a morning person, and a lot of people will tell you that, "Oh, you got to be up first thing in the morning, early bird catches the worm," and all of that, and that might very well be true. But guess the difference with me? I find that my brain kicks off at night. So I go to bed 2, 3 o'clock at night. That's when my brain is active. That's when I'm work. That's when I get my best thoughts. That's when it happens. So one of the things you've also got to realize in this journey to success is that not everybody's remedy is your cure. So when people say this is what works best for them, it might work for you. You can try, but what you got to figure out is what works best for you in your
Yeah.
world and in your situation. Is not everybody can do the same thing, or the world would be a boring place if we were all the same. So at the end of the day, I've learned that I must not look at what anybody else is doing. I've got standards that I live by. And as I live by those standards, I'm always trying to excel beyond those standards. So therefore, I'm not waiting and saying, "Man, this guy, I need to be as good as this guy." I don't want to be as good as anybody else. I want to be better than me. That's the thing. I want to be better than me. And if you're striving every day to be better than you, then guess what? Nobody can stop it because you're not comparing. You're not comparing with anybody else. I joke and tell people all the time, I'm not competitive, but I love to win. I've got a winning streak in me, Gary. Honestly, if you put something on the table, I go for it. I want to win. I will go for it. But at the end of the day, I am not doing anything that, it means I'm going to have to compete with somebody else for it. I want you
I
to
love
tell me, if you do this, you win. Don't tell me I've got to compete. We're taking the top 3 or the top 5. I'm not in that. Tell me, Barbara, if you go do this, you're going to win. I want everybody to win. I'm not about the top 3 or the top 5 or the top 10. Tell everybody this, if you do this, you're a winner. And then I'm ready to do that. I'm
I
ready
love
to,
that.
yes.
Collaborative economies.
Absolutely, brother.
You get it.
Absolutely. That's what I'm about.
How would you define success?
I love what Earl Nightingale said about success. He said it's the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. If a man is doing what he set out decisively to do, then that man's a success. Success for me is about when you say you are going to do something that is going to change you, change your community, change the world, you go out and you do it. You don't just say to yourself that success is not necessarily about money or anything like that. Success is doing something that create change and make a difference to others, make a difference to the world. Success is something that will outlive you. When you're not here, you will be remembered because you did something that made a difference and impacted the world. That is what success is for me. It's not about the money. I mean, and of course the money is important. So I say to people all the time, don't say Barbara says no. Of course it's about the money ultimately, because with no money, you're in trouble. The Bible says it answers all things. So money is very, very important. But the thing about it is, if you're doing enough to change the world, the money comes.
Great.
If you
Barb,
create the need, you fix it.
I agree. I agree.
Yes, yeah.
Barbara, you have touched the lives of over 7,000 persons since you've started your operation,
Yeah.
and nothing is slowing you down. What is your blueprint for success?
My blueprint for success is to make a note of what is it that you see that need fixing, and what is it that if you were to join somebody else, you could work together to do it, because there are people who've got better skills than I've got. There are people who are greater at what they can do than I can, and it's fine finding those people who've got better strengths than I've got and work with those people. I've learned that I don't need to be the brightest person in the group. I just need to have people who are smarter than me, who I can tag along with, and people who can take me along on the journey, that I can strive to reach the heights where they're at. And that's what it is about. That is why, I can say, yeah, I mean, my daughter used to tell her friends at school, yeah, my mommy got friends who are millionaires and all of that. Because guess what? If you surround yourself with those people, if there's going to be five and there's four in there already, you should be the fifth one. That's what it's about. It's about doing something differently. And they say that your income, if you look at the five people that you're closest to, your income will always be in direct relation to theirs. Therefore, if your income is not where you want to be, look at the circle of people you're around and say what their income is like. And yours is going to be a difference, I don't know, depending on where you are currency wise, a couple of thousand difference between yours and theirs. So you got to get yourself in the circle of those that you want to emulate, and you will see success start happening as you see it for yourself.
Love that. Barbara, what I see happen a lot, the average person looking at you, and sometimes they see only the success you,
Yes.
but sometimes they don't know the sacrifices, the some of your challenges
Yes.
to get where you are today.
Mhm.
Would you care to tell us some of the challenges that you had to overcome to
Yes.
be what you are today? A shining star of what great leadership is, a shining star of what woman represent. You represent womanhood.
Absolutely.
A shining star of what a beacon of light an entrepreneur can be.
Yes.
But what challenges you had to overcome to be where you are today?
I think one of the thing about it is, Gary, the excuse I hear from people all the time about why they're not successful is, oh, because I have the children. I got the job. I don't have the time. Time is relative. Your kids are the reason why you're doing what you're doing, and your job pays your bills until you have enough money to make a difference. Now, I did something crazy by walking out of my job. So I removed the wall. There was nothing for me to lean on. I realized that the biggest hindrance is to success is security. That's it. People said, oh, well, let's give me a little bit of security. I posted last week on my team group that faith has no plan B. That was it. I completely sold out. There were days when I had no petrol in my car to go see a client. This is not the days like when I could go on Zoom. I would think, okay, I'd go see a client and they're not there, and I know I have to go out tomorrow. My daughter is going to school at that point. It's private. I had my mortgage to pay. There were days when my mortgage was late. I remember the judge in the court. I mean, I used to joke and say, this man knew me. One week I was there because I couldn't pay my mortgage, and the next week I was there because I couldn't pay my loan. Now, I'm not telling anybody to do that, but I also knew where I was heading. I bought my first property in the UK before I even had my stay in the country. Now, the thing about it is that people say they can't, and I'm saying you got to think about it, and you never do anything illegal. That's the thing about it. But at the end of the day, you got to find out what is it that is driving you. And if there's a fear that you have, think of something else that you fear more than that right now, and weigh up those two fears and ask yourself. So when I couldn't put petrol in my car, when I couldn't pay my bills, when I couldn't do any of that, when I used to take my daughter on appointments to see clients with me in the evenings. She'd come in and we'd shower her, or my mom would have her in the day, and I'd bathe her and I'd put her sleep suit on and her pajama and her jacket, and I'd take her to clients' houses with me. And I used to sit at the gate in the car. She said, Carell? She said, yes, mommy, I must learn my manners. I said, yes, you must learn your manners, no talking. And then she'd sit and she'd be bored and she goes like, excuse me, could I watch a little bit of telly? So my daughter has seen me build my business. My daughter understood. I heard Bishop Wayne Malcolm said something once. He said, people say you need a balanced life. He said, there's no balanced life in success. He said, life is always out of balance. There's always something not happening. And guess what? Your family leans in with you to balance you. So if you're falling over, they're going to lean in to help and pull you back in. He said, that's what it is. But there's no balanced life when it comes to success. There are times when I think, okay, I must go to the gym. And then I realize the day is done. But guess what? I said, you know what? It's late, but I'm going to go do some steps. So it's about working what you got. The Bible said, love not sleep, lest thou fallest into poverty. I didn't have the luxury of sleeping 8 hours a night. I realized that if I did 4 hours, I was studying at the same time. So I had to do my studies. I had to build a business. I had to go to work. I had to do all of those things. But I realized that sleep was the only thing I could sacrifice for my success. People tell me all the time, oh, I need my 8 hours. I go like, okay, not going to be successful. And And don't get upset with me. The Bible tells you. So again, for me, one of the things I've learned as well, Gary, I mean, one of the biggest thing I've learned is never let people know when you don't have money. People don't do business with people who don't have money. You're a charity cause at that point. Nobody wants to help a charity. There were
You're
days,
risk.
yeah, I used to go out, Gary, and when I used to go out, I couldn't afford a coffee. So guess what?
Hmm.
People say, Barbara, hey, do you want a coffee? I go, like, it's okay, I'm fasting. Because the next time I'm not buying the coffee because I don't have money. You'll not be thinking, well, I bought her a coffee the last time. I never told my daughter we never had money. I used to say to her, Carell, okay, so what happened in finances, we work on a budget. It's not in this month's budget. So what we can do is we can work and fit it into the budget over the next few months. Or, mommy, can I go to the fun fair? Carell, okay, we go to the fun fair. And as soon as you get the toys that break, she said, yes, they're rubbish. I said, exactly. But how about we go to Disneyland Paris? She said, okay. I said, so will you allow me to go to work to make the money to do it? She said, yes, mommy. So it's about finding ways to get people aligned with your vision so it wasn't because it was easy, but it was finding a way to get her sold onto what I was doing. So when things were tough, when I was hungry and I was coming in at nights and I'm thinking, man, I'm hungry. I don't know if there's anything there to eat, but I got to go home. I got to do all of these things. So it was never, ever easy to do it. And, even for me, sometimes might be, my daughter said to me recently, she said, Mommy, you've stopped sharing your story. People not hearing your story. They're seeing Barbara, the senior vice president. No, they're not seeing the Barbara that, when your car broke down, you took me on the bus to see clients with you. She said, you haven't shared those stories with people anymore. And I said, that is very true. So yes, so thanks as well for you. It's a reminder for me of some of the things that I went through to be here.
I love that you share that because sometimes all people see is the success you,
Yes.
but the road you had to walk, the path and journey that you had to go through to be where
Yes.
you are today. Sometimes they don't see it, and that's just a falsified notion
Mhm.
of what success is. Success
Mhm.
has ups and downs. Success
Yep.
turns you all around, and you just have to embrace that. You
Absolutely.
know,
Absolutely.
Barbara, when you look at life, sometimes you have regret. And what I've seen is that instead of seeing it as an experience, sometimes you see regret and you use regret to pull you back.
Hmm.
Or some people use those regret to really push them forward and help
Hmm.
them to, leapfrog their
Yes.
growth. In your life, would you say, what has your experience done for you? Has it pushed you forward? Has it pulled you back? Do you have regrets?
I guess there's always going to be little things in your life that you wish you've done differently. I wouldn't say necessarily I've had regrets because I look at everything in my life and it's led me somewhere. There is nothing in your life that hasn't done something to lead you to where you are today. If you come to a crossroads, whichever path you choose is going to take you somewhere. It doesn't matter. And the thing is, I don't ever look back and second guess myself and said, what if I had done it that way? I don't do that. For me, it's I look at the things that causes an issue for me and try to see how learn from it and actually say, what could I have done differently? What did I learn from that experience? And for me, everything is a learning curve. I know you asked about the challenges and success, and every time I have like a bad spot in my business or in life, I go to the father and I say to him, okay, I know you've sent me back to the classroom. I don't like the classroom, right? But I'm in the classroom, so help me to figure out the lesson quickly so I don't get stuck here too long. So everything that happens in my life, I realize is a classroom moment. It's a classroom
Okay.
moment. So everything is, I'm learning from everything and I'm able to use those experiences to better myself and to help others as well as I move along.
Barbara, I know you're very busy. I just have five more questions that I want us to go through.
Okay.
But I can sit here and talk with you all the time because
That's
I'm
fine.
learning so much from you and I love your energy. But I
Thank you.
just want to go through five questions because I know
All
you're
right.
busy also.
Okay, fantastic.
I want to look at now what really inspired you to become an influencer in your industry. Some people are inspired by money. While money is one of the factors of doing business, I know
Mhm,
for a fact that money is not the only motivator for you. You want
mhm.
to touch and transform lives. But what inspired you to be on this path of wanting to, touch people's life in this way?
One other thing about it is, Gary, in our community, and I don't know anywhere in the world where it's any different in a country like we live in, I realized that Nobody comes to my community and bring financial education. Nobody comes around here and said, man, we want to go educate that community. It doesn't happen. In addition to that, I find that when I show up at a meeting with financial services people, and I've got a colleague who is of a different skin color, and I'm looking, I can't find them in a room. It's easy for them to find me in a room because there's just so few of us. And one, I've learned in life as well, when you're honest, you have to work twice as hard. When you're black, you have to work 3 times as hard. And when you're a woman, you have to work 5 times as hard. So if you're an honest black woman, you have to work 10 times as hard. But I also wanted to be able to show other people younger than myself that, guess what, or even older than myself, that you can do it. I'm no different. Don't tell me you're black. So what am I?
It's
Don't tell me
possible.
you're a woman. What am I?
Possible.
Yeah, exactly. Don't tell me, you don't have to, you have to have no integrity. No, no, my faith comes above everything else. Anything that doesn't align with my faith, I'm not doing it. So I want to be able to show my community that you can come and talk to me, and I'm going to talk to you from the truth. I'm going to speak to you in a language that you can understand. If you need me to talk like a Jamaican to you, I can do that for you to understand what I am saying. So for me, it's about empowering, engaging my community, and helping them understand that we can make a difference. We have done it before. We are people of greatness, and we can go back to that place of greatness again. So therefore, if it takes me to start leading the pack, I am ready. That's my inspiration to make a difference.
I love that.
Yes.
What impact do you want to make, and how do you want to be remembered?
It's funny. I joke all the time, and I say they need to have a picture of me on the wall in the future to say that was great, 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 great grandma. I've only got one daughter. I'm not sure she wanted kids anyway, but that's a different subject. But the thing about it is, Gary, when I do my training on a Saturday mornings, I start my training to say today is, and let's say today is the 17th. I'll say today is the 17th of May, 2024. If you're listening to this 500 years in the future, I don't know how long time will last. However, if what I'm doing today can still be positive enough to impact lives throughout generation and transcend time, that's what I want. One of the things I notice, we might talk about Einstein. It's funny because you could go to certain places of the world and you say Bob Marley, and they said, yeah, we're from Jamaica, Bob Marley, straight away. But you go somewhere, you say Albert Einstein, they go like, who? You don't know who that is. So so at the end of the day, I've also realized that just being like a smarty pants doesn't necessarily make that
Yeah,
much of a difference to the world. I want to be remembered that I did something that changed lives. I want to be the person that, when I'm no longer here, they're going to say, man, we wish Barbara was here. Barbara would have walked in this room and lit up this room. Yeah, I make an entrance wherever I go. Honestly, I walk in a room, I don't have to say nothing. They're just like, yeah, Barbara's here. You get what I'm saying? But I want to still not just from, as I said, not just from the impact from a business work point, but also be somebody that when I'm not here, somebody going to say, man, Barbara would have said that. Barbara would, you get what I'm saying? I want to be able to have still have the fun Barbara, that people still remember her being fun and being, being the mean Barbara. Sometimes, as my daughter says, you're a mean person. But again, I want my community to understand that we can make a difference. And that is what impact is about, is that woman got up and she went out and she showed people that their lives could be better financially. That's what I want to be remembered for.
I love that.
Yeah.
Barbara, we talked a little bit early on about your vision for the business.
Yes.
I know you say that is a possibility that you may consider IPO. Can you, outside of that or included to
Yeah.
that, can you talk to us a little bit about what are your future plans for your brand? Do you plan
So
to make it global?
So one of the thing about as a company and as my CEO and myself and my other steering committee members, as we sit down, we talk, we look at how many people are in the UK first and foremost, and how many of those people have we impacted. Because sometimes it's all well and good, we look at international expansion, but you haven't even helped. My grandmother used to say, you got to learn to dance a yard before you dance abroad. I mean, so for those who don't understand, learn your dancing skills at home before you go to the party. All right, to make sure you do that. All right. So for us, it's trying to start impacting lives. There's 65 million people in the UK. We haven't even touched a tip of that yet. In terms of expansion, we have just started looking at South Africa. So Jenny Star South Africa is just taking off at the moment. So that is one area that we've gone into. We've been talking my CEO about what happens. So we're looking at, he's saying in the next 3 to 5 years, possibility we might that could possibly be a franchise option where people could buy franchises within the business. Could very well be a stock market floating, as you've said. It could very well be just the company grows and there's, profit share scheme in place for the people who are entrepreneurs within the business as well. So there are different options that are available to us as a company. Right now, we know sometimes, being a stock exchange company, you can't do some of the things that your vision was about because you answer to shareholders. You might want to go down the street and help the guy who's homeless, or they say, actually, no, that doesn't make us any money. You can't do that. So there are all these drawbacks about as well being about floating on the stock market. So there are different options we're looking at. What will still be impactful enough for the people in the business from a financial perspective, but also to still be able to provide the level of service that we currently offer to our clients, and in fact might be even get better. So still on the fence on it.
I have one more question, and then
Okay.
I want to also bring up one of your colleagues to assess the level of impact that you have been having on them. But just before I bring up your colleague to see the impact that you're making on them and how you're going to be remembered by that personality, I want to ask you the last question, and that is,
Yes.
what are essential money habits people should have?
It's funny because you remember I started out by saying about the 70-10-10, 10-10-10-70 principle. I
Yeah.
think that's one of the biggest things for me. I also talk to people who are having a play account. You must have fun. The Bible says good for a man to enjoy the fruits of his labor. Therefore, if you're working and all you're working and you have no fun, then you're going to be in trouble. You're going to get so disillusioned with life that nothing that I tell you is going to sink in. So you have a play account, and in your play account, you could very well be, and sorry, I keep using UK terms here. It might very well be, you know what, I'm going to put £25 in my play account. I'm going to put £50 from my excess in there. And this is where if I see a really nice perfume and I think that smells really nice, I want to have that, you take it from your play account. Oh, that's a beautiful earring, or that's a beautiful bracelet. I'd like that. That comes from your play account. Therefore, you don't feel bad when you spend the money from it to pay for it, because I think that's the worst thing about spending your own money and feeling bad about it because now you got a bill to pay. But your play account is where you put money. And if there's anything that you see straight away that you want, just leave it in there. One day there's going to be something so nice that you think, wow, I'm really glad I have my play account. But it doesn't have to be massive amounts you put in your play account. It's just your little account that you have, that it is your fun thing. But 70-10-10-10-10-70, sorry, is my biggest thing when it comes to money, about learning and understanding. And even if you're not giving away your 10%, I mean, I'm not going to get in that, but 70%, that's the most of your income you should be living on for your day-to-day expenses. And if that's not happening, then it means you really need to start reviewing your income strategy as well.
Well, I must say thank you for sharing with us, Barbara.
And thank you
And
for having me.
thank you for taking the time to be with us today and sharing with the audience.
Yes.
And I want to say, people, whether you're in the UK, you're in the US, you're in the world, Barbara has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to financial intelligence. So I want you to follow her. I want you to make yourself available to be mentor. Coming up in the future, we'll be learning so much more about Barbara and how you can get in contact with her. I will drop some of her links in the description, so you can definitely touch base and learn more from Barbara. But Barbara, there's a saying that, referrals is the best medicine in growing your brand.
Absolutely.
So I have a colleague in studio who have worked with you, and I don't know if she's going to say something to compliment everything that you were saying, or if she's going to talk against anything that you have said.
No.
But I brought her here to nourish you, or not to nourish you. Joan, Ray Niles, how are you?
Brilliant, thank you.
What impact has Barbara has been making on you?
Very inspiring. I find Barbara as a leader, as a woman, as a friend, as all round, is amazing and brilliant. And also my complexion too. I appreciate that aspect. I must add that there. It's not been easy. I know she's moved through quite a bit. How else will she grow and expand? Some of the points that you've raised, Barbara, such as the type of work that we're doing. And as a matter of fact, I'm happy to be in your team.
Mhm.
You're in the team, and I'm happy to be in it because I just know that I have that extended support from you. And I also am choosing to give it to you as well at the same time. So the things that you brought up, how we can affect our society, such as the crime rate will increase, will reduce, yeah, will fall when people have really what they're looking for, when they have money to have the things that they want. That will also affect society, which also affect family. It also will help people to see that they are more than what they might think they are. They're to grow. So there's that. And also you talked about being better than yourself. That means to me that you're looking within you and going broader and deeper and bringing out more substance that you have to help you to move forward rather than looking outside. So that's amazing as well. I love that. And also to, have a collaborated economy. Yes. I see it like a marriage where all of us are together. We share and we have an interpersonal relationship with each other, interdependent relationship with each other, so that we can grow and expand. I love the word grow and expand. I love that phrase. So, Barbara, I appreciate you, and I think you're amazing and brilliant. I love working with you. So,
thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you.
Wow. So, Barbara, if there was any skeleton in the closet,
she's awesome as well. She's amazing, honestly, and that's the thing about as they're people that I work with and people who, talk to me and say, hey, let's, I'd love to be a part of your team as well. And I think it's great when you have people. I think one of the big thing about it is being able to have people who, it's not sometimes necessarily about being a yes person, but also sometimes understanding is stepping out yourself really and realize that you're in a learning environment and you're back in the classroom ready to learn something new or refresh where you're at. And Joan is one of those people who said, okay, fine. I know she has done stuff that I'm doing now. She's done it for years. She's done it years before me as well. And she's still saying, okay, fine. I'm here ready to learn again. So I think that's just amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, Joan has spent many years in the financial sector.
Yes.
So
yes.
I know you have that asset with you.
Yes.
But Barbara, all to you now. Is there any question that I didn't ask you? Is there anything that you'd want to say that I did not ask? I want to give you this opportunity to say it now or forever hold your peace.
Hold my peace. Cool. I think one of the thing about it is that as we sit and we have discussions, I think will be pretty great, and if this is something that I have, with my fellow steering colleague members is that we sit and we discuss things and having group discussions around finances. I think it's a great place to do those things. Joe, I run training. I do training for the team. I do different angles of training, and it is so crucial that if you're struggling in an area, don't ask your grandmother. It's not every experienced person can help you. You wouldn't go to your grandmother for dance lessons. This is the same thing around finances. You talk to people, they say, oh, I gotta ask let me talk to my friend first. But your friend's broke. Somebody who is better than you or is doing well, who can help you and take you on the journey. Stop asking people who are broke for guidance and for direction when it comes to your life. Find people who they can be mentor. And it's amazing how there's so many people who are financially okay who will mentor you. They have no plan, but we hide from them. Like, no, they wouldn't talk to me, or no, or you don't want to talk to them. Go and find out, what are you doing? That's the thing about me. I ain't got no shame to walk into a room. I went to the House of Lords and I went to the House of Commons, and I just saw these guys sitting down and just going like, is this seat taken? And I'm sitting there, sat next to a guy who got $750 million raised for Santander, became a very good friend of mine, fantastic friend of mine, great solicitor. So that's the thing. I'm fearless. What are you going to tell me? No, you can't sit there. No problem. Why? Never killed anybody. I really don't care. When I step out of here, I don't know you. That's the thing. Don't get hung up on what people think. Just remember, you've been put on this earth for a purpose. You've got to fulfill the purpose, because the day the Lord call you home and you have your question and answer session with him, he's not going to care what your neighbor thought. He's going to ask you about the purpose that he gave you that you did or did not fulfill. That's
wow. And that's a positive note to end on. Barbara, I must say, it's definitely an inspiration talking with you. I love your energy, and I'm certain that the audience is going to feel your energy, and we definitely have to do this again.
100%. Just let me know. Yeah, John's got my calendar anyway. So,
all right, John, great having you. Barbara, great having you. And
guys.